On today's BVA Boardroom Podcast, we have Bryan McMartin. Really excited to have him on. An unbelievable guy in the community. Grew up in Boise, attended Capitol High School, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Graduated from high school here and then went to the University of Nevada for an undergraduate in marketing and then a master's in athletic leadership at Boise State. He's been a sales marketing professional for 16 years. And what he is more than anything is a community guy. He serves on multiple boards, and he's the chairman of our nonprofit, Inspire Excellence and Teens2Trades. I learn a lot from this guy every time I talk to him, and I'm sure you're going to really enjoy it today. Bryan McMartin. Bryan McMartin. Welcome. This is going to be fun, buddy.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Thank you very much for coming on. I've known you for a long time, and you've always been like the community guy. And I want to get into that because I think when you talk about mentorship and what's made a difference for you, I can't wait to get there because yeah. I've watched you serve on boards, and you're just kind of everywhere in the community. And anyway, thanks for being on today.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
This is kind of a starstruck moment for me because I was telling the team here when I walked in, I might be your number one listener. I'm a fanboy for all the podcasts. I know all the guests you've had.
Hey, they've been pretty
awesome.
good lately.
Oh, I was not ready for Dan Nelson's. And for those listening to this podcast, if you haven't listened to that one, Gordon Jones, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, Dan Nelson, man, when he left, it was like total silence in the room. Everyone had it was impressive. Well, where I was. I know where I was. I was down at Simplot for a meeting yesterday, and I had a guy come up to me in the hallway and grab me. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I listened to that, and it was life changing." He's an incredible guy.
Oh, it's a big deal. And before we jump into our stuff, I just honestly do appreciate this platform that you bring to this valley. I mean, it's cool because all these people you bring on, they're all the people that, we look up to and are doing so many cool things, but there's not a ton of places like your podcast, the stuff you're doing. So
it's funny because like we did different versions of it, and then a lot of people all the time. They're like, you got to do it again, because I think in the business community especially, there, what's going on, and now podcasts. I mean, I've been listening to Max Holloway's interview with Joe Rogan the last 2 days. Did you watch the last UFC?
Oh yeah,
Maddie, you got to listen to it. It is so good. Anyway, I think podcasts have become part of what we're doing, and I think if you can get some local flavor and what's going on, it's great. Well, Anyway, thank you for coming on. I can't wait to get into it. Hey, can you start by telling us a little bit about you and growing up here? Sure. And I've heard some of it, but I'd love to hear about you and growing up here in Boise.
Yeah. It's funny because this is my first podcast, right? But you all want to get invited and tell your story. And I'm like, what do I have special? But honestly, it's been really cool. So grew up in Boise, and you don't really realize it until you leave and come back, just how special that is. So moved here, one of 5 kids. Dad's a doctor. Moved here to run a rehab clinic at St. Alphonsus, was medical director there. For 30 years. So we were like, just thinking back on it, like I pinched myself. Like it's the perfect, think about Boise, right? Yeah. Now, best place to live, every list, everything. And we got to do that in the 80s, 90s, lived on the river. So grew up in a house with my 4 siblings. We could river in the backyard, what was Plantation Golf Course, the River Club on the other side of the street. And just had the dream childhood. Great parents. My mom's amazing. Always pushed us to find what we wanted to do. So, yeah, it was really a great upbringing.
Is your dad still working in medicine?
No, he just retired. Finished at St. Luke's, so he's enjoying grandkids and fishing trips, and he's in Mexico, and yeah, they're having a lot of fun.
Good for him.
Yeah, no, it was amazing to just really live that perfect Idaho life without knowing any different, right? You just take it for granted, I think, growing up. But one thing that we were told was to just chase your passions, and I've got some pretty spectacular siblings that's hard to live up to. Everybody's got masters or higher, all 5 of us. 2 are PhDs and professors. One's in Belgium, one's at University of Arizona, and then My sister she's probably the smartest one of all of us, master's and a partner at Deloitte in London. And then my brother is a doctor of physical therapy, lives here, the one other Idahoan with me here. So it's kind of a lot to live up to. But for me, I was the class clown, graduated from Capitol High School. I student class president, always had the microphone at assemblies and kind of silly. And then went to college and graduated in 2008 and had no idea. But the one constant in my life was sports. I was just a sports dork. I just lived for it. Sports are better than everything always. It's a new story. There's so much to get excited about. So I get so pumped about sports. So I started working in sports and sold baseball tickets to the Boise Hawks. So a lot of good people got started there. It's a literally
fraternity.
Oh yeah. It is. And there was a phone book on my desk my first day, and I had A through M, and the other sales intern had N through Z, and it was like call, and it was 2008, and it was rough.
Oh, wow.
And I got to give a shout out. The GM was Todd Rare. He was a great mentor, great sales leader, kind of really helped earn some chops, right? Trying to pick up the phone and just dial. And there's
nothing like that either.
It's tough.
Cold calling.
It's tough. It's especially in 2008, right? I mean, I think I was making $12,000 a year salary, working, 40 hours a week in the office, then all the games, sweeping popcorn and doing, it was just, but I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
I was wearing a Hawks.
Those are the good times, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the good times.
Yeah. So that kind of sparked me into sports, moved away, lived in Denver and Houston, selling golf memberships, actually kind of a funny, just a connection in the family.
Yeah.
Got me going into it and sold some tournaments and private country club memberships. So in Houston, Texas, during an oil boom. So that was good times. And you know what I learned was how successful people talk when they're not on, right? It kind of makes you connect a little more. These are very successful people buying $30,000, $40,000 down payment or just entry fees for these memberships. And you got to kind of see, hey, they pull you to the side, after a couple pops on the golf course and go, hey, this is what life. So this is how business is done. And so I think that really helped kind of tear down like the wall that some have on getting over doing sales. And it's just all these guys are just guy or gal, whoever you're selling to. So that kind of kickstarted my sales career. Got a good kind of resume built, and then started doing college sales because college athletics is my passion. Yeah. So a company called Learfield. Yeah. They do sponsorship stuff, and so that's where I kind of learned more sophisticated selling. University of Nevada in Reno, where I went to college. Yep. And then University of Oregon. They won the Rose Bowl and lost in the national champion. Mariota won the Heisman, so got to sell that team. And
I didn't realize that. So that's when you were there.
Oh yeah. And then Final Four in basketball. I mean, we were adjacent. We were dealing with all the corporate sponsors, and I was representing but it's just go get people excited about the Ducks. Go get people.
Their facilities are pretty crazy.
Oh, it was unbelievable. And I don't know. I mean, it's a great program. I don't know if we'll touch on college athletics and that.
Go there now.
Yeah.
So is the Phil Nike influence up there as big as you hear?
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing I learned about Phil that he does is he never starts anything. He finishes all of the big fundraisers. So he goes, if you can go out and raise the first half, I'll close it out, right? So that was from a fundraising standpoint, that it's good and bad, right? Everyone looks at you and goes, Phil will pay for all of it.
It's so those guys don't get stuck though, right? Because a lot of if they're the first money and no one wants to do it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They might as well pay for the whole thing.
And it's a blank check. Just go look around, and every single facility's got some night connect. They might put an acronym out there, but it was good. It wasn't a long stint for me. The real goal was to come back to Boise State. Yeah. That was where my passion was. That's where all my good buddies, a couple Capital guys and some guys played on that Fiesta Bowl team. And, thinking about it, Boise State, what that meant for this community. Oh my gosh. There's no way to overstate what it meant, especially I always tell the story, like you go kind of the boom in 05, 06, everything was so hot, and then just dead, like everything. And I think we forget how, we just forget how deep that recession was. Yeah. But the one constant was Boise State. Oh, yeah. Expanding, embracing the business community, and then the positivity that came through sports and the Fiesta Bowl and the timing of that
for this area. I think, when the book's written was a magical time.
Yeah.
And really carried the day.
For sure.
Yeah.
And gave Boise a name nationally, gave this community something to connect. I mean, how many Boise State grads were traveling to Phoenix? Not a ton. There weren't a ton of crowd. It was everybody who just found themselves in Idaho and just connected with this team and this story. And it is, to try to step back and be objective, one of the craziest stories. This little, it makes no sense except our field was blue. I'm like, what are we doing here? And for me, being a sports nut, growing up, seeing some buddies, I was at the Fiesta Bowls. The first couple had adopted, exchange student who was like part of the family who was on the second Fiesta Bowl team. So got to go there and see him after the game. Good friend of mine, Kyle Efaw, was the MVP. We were in his hotel room after my best man in my wedding was a wide receiver on, Sports Illustrated. They had Nick Harris, shout out to Nick, and he was in the middle of the spread, and I'm like, this is not real. This doesn't make any sense. So for a storyteller and a sports nut, I wanted to come tell Boise State's story. Yeah. So that was my path back and did that and really enjoyed it, and it really got me.
How many years did you work at Boise State?
So 6 years at Boise State. Yeah. So 4 doing the Learfield thing again, doing the corporate sponsorships, and then 2 in the athletic department, working my way up through the fundraising. Some of those folks, and it was a good experience. Got my master's degree in athletic leadership. So kind of had that hat on, trying to see the world through that lens, and then it just I felt like the more impactful thing for me was being a part of this community, and it less about the sports as I grew and saw what it really was. So then, obviously, eventually moved on and
at McAlvain now.
Yeah,
And how many years has it been?
Yeah, it's been almost 4. It'll be 4 coming up, and different worlds. But tell you what, construction's a team sport too.
So McAlvain, for those listening, one of the largest construction companies here, homegrown.
Yeah.
3rd generation now, right, with Torrey Jr. But unbelievable people. We probably ought to have senior on at some point, but just community-minded, kind of pillar of the community kind of thing. So it's probably been a great move for you.
Oh, it's been great. And we're still close with athletics. And so that, to me, it was all about surrounding myself with the right people and opportunity to make an impact in this community. And McAlvain's just what they've done and the way they do it, and honestly, the vision that Torrey Jr. has, because we're the same age and he's a young leader. But when we talked while I was still at Boise State, he got me so fired up. I was like, dude, I want to work for you. Like, would you hire? And he's like, no, I'm not hiring you. I'm not hiring friends. And then eventually, so the construction world's great because it has opened up this new, kind of behind a curtain I never knew that, who moves things here in this community and makes things and builds things and determines what our community looks like and how it's built. And it's been a great experience.
I do. Let's go to this, and then we'll bounce around here a little bit. But one of the things I've noticed about you is service. I mean, it's ingrained. I'd love to know where it started from, but it's genuine, it's authentic, and it's not. I mean, when I watch you in action, it's not just, hey, I'm going to be part of this. It's going to be, I'm going to go make a difference. Yeah. And right now, you're the chairman of our Inspire Excellence boards that does Teens2Trades and doing great stuff. And we'll get back to that, but. When I was getting ready for this, so Make-A-Wish, Jane DeLuca Foundation, Idaho Youth Sports Commission, ULI Advisory Board, BVEP, Idaho High School Showcase, Idaho Business for Education.
Sure.
I do think for young people listening out there, talk about the value of being part of community boards. Because when I first got here, I got here in the 90s. And one of the first things I did was got on 2 boards. And it honestly, those relationships that you make on these boards, it's probably one of the easiest ways to ingrain yourself. But when I read the list, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Apologize if I missed any too, but
yeah, there's people out there saying, hey, wait,
I remember you.
But talk about the value for you in connections and authentic kind of leadership lessons learned, and then probably authentic giving back, the way to give back and connect with your own community through those, because it's a lot. I mean, that's a big list.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate. I've been supported by the groups that I represent to go be that voice. And I think that's something that I'm lucky to have that opportunity, but there just is no comparing, getting involved in actually meeting these people, get in the fight, just for me, the connections have been great. I think what drives me is storytelling. I mean, that's something that I guess I find myself in opportunities to represent these organizations, A, because I connect with the mission, but then B, they're like, hey, you're a storyteller. You go raise money. You do this stuff. Hey, can you help us? I'm like, heck yeah, I want to help you. This is cool stuff. And
what you're hitting on, because I think it's significant, is like if you believe in a cause, and you look at all the cause-driven organizations there, and it really, you believe in your heart and your mind, like, I'm going to go make a difference here, and you got some clarity around what you're going to do. The story is, hey, like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What's our purpose and vision and mission?
Yeah.
And how do we need your help? And that's powerful, right?
Yeah.
And then to watch that spread, right? That those interactions spread, and all of a sudden now you look back and behind you and you're like, oh, we're making a difference. It's pretty unique, and there's a lot of that in Boise. I haven't been to, obviously I've lived here a long time, but I have friends that are in other communities, and I ask the question: is it like that for you? Is it this service driven? And it just seems like there's this class of leader and people in business around here that everyone's willing to help.
Oh, it's huge. And it starts with, I think, some of the values of the state, right? Where it's, for not to, politically, there's different value kind of sets that people have, but, more or less it's, hey, go do this stuff. It's not going to be handed to you. There's been just a culture of giving that has built out a necessity here, but just the people. And then the impact that these organizations are made. If you look at it, and I don't want to get anything wrong, but when I was at Boise State, I remember learning that Idaho has per capita the second most registered nonprofits per capita of any state in the United States. I think Utah's number one. And not all that's faith-based, but it's really just the needs.
And I agree, you go back to our heritage and culture, it's like we don't expect government to cover that.
Yeah. We
expect to take care of each other,
yeah.
right? So the way you take care of each other is through this nonprofit service, and then there's all this giving. And I've always, man, you see some of the budgets that these nonprofits run off and all of the work they do. Like, look at the tremendous impact they have off of these small dollars. It's also the antithesis of government.
Yeah.
Because in government, you have these programs that you're like, it costs you how much to do the same thing? And so I really love that about our heritage, that we take care of our neighbor.
Yeah.
We want to help. We want to be inclusive. And I think, I hope we just keep it that way, because it really is a magical part of this. I also think when you talk to some of the real old timers here, and I've talked to them, like you talk,
sure.
What did it used to be like? I mean, some of that, I think, heritage comes from those legacy companies we had. Mm-hmm. You hear the stories of when Jack Simplot and Joe Albertson and there were a handful of guys that would sit around a table and say, hey, we're going to go make a difference here, and we're going to go do this. And hopefully that remains a deep part of what we do here.
Yeah, and I think it's the next generation's turn. I think Matt Bauscher even mentioned that to you on. Yeah. See, I can go back and reference all your other podcasts, but it is important that this community keeps connected with that. And I think for any manager of young people or young professionals listening, the real benefit to me of getting involved in those organizations. I mean, you put a lot of time, but the connections and then the perspective and one of my favorite topics and leadership focuses is empathy. I mean, I swear it's a superpower.
Yeah.
If you can sit down, listen to someone, understand their perspective, and then run that, through your head, go, wow, this is, if I actually sit down and think about what, Faces of Hope does for families in need, and you just run that through your mind. Take the time to understand what these other people are going through. You have no you want to help, right? Yeah. You want to get involved. And I think all these organizations, from youth sports to, the stuff we're doing for helping connect kids with jobs and opportunities. I mean, it's work worth doing, right? So,
it's amazing. I'm going to go to Teens2Trades here in a minute, but importance of mentorship,
Yeah.
both in your life and then looking at the way you live your life and how you mentor others.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, one of the key things. I think for me, I was so blessed with my parents were incredible, and they've pushed all of us kids to go do what they wanted and really helped us along the way. But there's just been good people that I've been around that have really helped me. But I think the thing I see in my job, so when I worked in those college athletic departments, I saw a lot of young student athletes, and that was really the driving force, was my friends' experience. When I was out not having to go to practice or watch film or whatever it was, I had all the time in the world to go intern and find these opportunities. And when I was working in college athletics, I saw these incredible young people who just didn't see the connection points, right? They just didn't have anyone talking about what happens after. There's the NFL and people trying to be their agent or kind of angle that way, but there was very little like what happens next. And, I realized my opportunity I had working with the business leaders and helping connect these organizations to the university was, I also, had the opportunity to talk about the value of a student athlete working as a team, hard work, having cameras in their face, having to represent something bigger than themselves. And, for me, that was where, when you talk about, mentorship, that's where I saw my opportunity, not just to mentor or be mentored, but to create mentorship opportunities, create conduits and connection points where I started, seeing the picture make sense, right? The color added for these young people of like, okay, I do have value. Yeah, my resume's blank, and I actually haven't taken a resume class or didn't sit down and do it because I'm, traveling to Texas to play whoever or whatever the scenario is. And then something that I think is incredible happening in our community is the Bronco Life program that's led by Sarah Swanson and now I'm blanking on her new Wiles, Sarah Wiles. So married, and she's one of the most inspiring people I've met. But what she's created, which was something I was really passionate about, was just connection points and mentorship for these young people. And it's not just athletes, right? You talk about Mission 43 or, the military. I think there's a lot of connection there, or, this trade work. So for me, I wish I could give you good stories about all I've just been poured into. And for me and what I think I've got talent to do, it's not as much mentorship, but connection and bringing people together. And I think that's a really powerful thing.
That's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about Teens2Trades. So quick story. So when I was running for governor, I met lots of incredible people. Just, people that would go, oh, wow, this life-changing people. I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but one of the guys I met was a guy named Ron Nilsson. You remember this, right, Maddie? So he owned a big. They made big equipment up in North Idaho, and he started as a welder, so no college education, kind of on the job training as a welder, and he tells these stories of him welding these tanks and being inside tanks. Well, he worked himself up to where he owns this company. And if you met this guy, like the second you meet him, you're like, okay, your DNA is different than mine. This guy is like he's just a fireball from the time you meet him, and he's just passionate about everything he does. So I get to know him a little bit, and one of our first meetings is like, hey, have you seen K-Tech? I'm like, what's K-Tech? He's like, oh, it's a school we put together. Hop in my truck, and we go over and check it out. And the story is that he needed welders. Couldn't find any of them. So he starts going around and knocking on doors to the school district and to, the junior college up there and said, hey, how do we help this? We got to do this. And in his estimation, there's just nothing that fits this. So he thought, I'm going to put together an alternative school. I'm going to have the school districts up there all contribute. I'm going to tell them they have to. And then I'm going to go out to the community, and I'm going to get the people in the community to help us with the curriculum. So if it's HVAC, then it's going to be the HVAC companies that write the curriculum, and they're going to donate the equipment, and they're going to be, and then in return, they're going to get these students coming out that are trained for them. And he went to the hospital and he said, hey, do you need CNAs? And he went to the framers, and he said, hey, you need framers. And he went to, so you walk through the halls of this school up there, and right next to the painting class is CNA, and then there's robotics, and then there's framing, and on the other side there's automotive and welding and plumbing and HVAC and electrical. And it was then I got to stay there and interview and talk to them, and I'm like, this is like incredible, right? So after that, we've stayed really close. And listen, I think Ron Nilsson is an incredible human. He ended up doing the same thing with college up there. And he, every time you're with him, you leave crying because he's got you so inspired. But down here, we started looking around saying, how do we make a difference? Because I think from the construction industry, which you're in now, and you look around, they're just these qualified tradesmen. One, they're retiring, right? There's this generation of, they're just getting older and they're not being backfilled. And then on top of that, we have an exponential problem because it's just busy. Never have we needed more welders, more electricians, more plumbers. And then the other thing that's happened is the wage, the livable wage they can make is incredible. And then along comes CWI, right? So here's this perfect alignment where you got Gordon Jones at CWI. So we did some research. We spent about 2 years looking around saying, okay, what's going on in the Valley? And there are some great things going on in the Valley. Each school district kind of has their program, and then you got CWI doing their thing. But we thought, hey, let's really make a difference on this, and started Teens2Trades, which raises money for scholarships to CWI in plumbing, welding, electrical, HVAC. One thing I will say is I think we were doing a really good job of kind of figuring all this out and doing all this, and then Bryan McMartin became the chair of the board, and it's like, oh, okay.
There's power to guilt-tripping people.
No, this is what leadership looks like. So you're now the chair of the board, and we have an incredible board. We do some great things, but it's really fun to watch it take off. It's really fun to watch these scholarships in action. So it's a long story to tell you. One, thank you for doing what you're doing, and two, tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on where we're headed and how good it's been.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I'm glad you mentioned that genesis of the whole thing, because it really did start with you and your team kind of just going, whoa, holy smokes, look at this.
Were you with us when we went up? Yeah. So I thought you were. So, yeah, one of our board members is Joan Boren.
Yeah.
And she's like, we're going to go look at this place, right? Gosh.
And that was valuable. For me, this is all new, right? So I had
the plane ride didn't suck.
That was so fun. I was telling these guys, I was like, that's good way to travel. We, for me, my perspective changed a lot when I left the athletics world, right? And I'm still passionate about that. But really, I think the string that pulls through is young people finding passion, right? And finding something they connect with, and seeing a line to a future that is fulfilling and has meaning to them. And when we went up and toured KTAC, the thing I remember most was meeting some of the kids, even in the hallway, and it was, there was no
Remember
BS.
that welding teacher? That young girl weighed like 110 pounds, and she just was like, flips up her thing, and she's like the welding instructor up there. And it was incredible meeting them. Yeah, some of
the work that they do, and we just toured the welding program at CWI and talked to one of their instructors too, and it really, to me, is the most exciting thing to be a part of, because what we're doing is we're also talking about a problem or an opportunity. I look at it as an opportunity. I think you mentioned the rate of retirement for tradespeople, and it's scary. The last one I heard, and when you can look it up, but for every one new tradesperson, 8 are retiring, and our infrastructure is not getting sounder, and we're not stopping. But things need to happen, and there's opportunity there. And I think there's also a unique opportunity in Idaho for young people that want to work, that can see hard work and value hard work, and just don't see the connection points and the opportunities. And so that's what Teens2Trades is really tackling. And then Inspire Excellence as a whole is really trying to make connection points, in a lot of different ways. But I'm so pumped about the board we've got.
Yeah.
I mean, this. When I come in, I'm bringing some juice. too much time in those athletic locker rooms and listen to the coaches. I'm like, let's go.
Hey, listen, I'm not blowing smoke. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
It's like engagement's been great. And the other thing about these community boards, if you get asked to do things and you feel immediate response because, hey, they need me, the engagement's better. And so I just can't thank you enough. Let's talk a little bit about the CWI thing, because I do think when you look at our kids here and now the launch program, and I think we've talked a lot about that when Gordon was here, but basically you can go on the launch website, graduating seniors this year, you can apply and get this two-year scholarship. It's going to be a game changer, and I think they've had up to now 12,000 people apply. But you take that launch program, CWI being here in the Valley, all this growth and jobs that are here, there is a real shot for kids of all desires and passions to figure out, hey, I want to stay here. I want to live in Idaho. I want to raise my family here because it's so wonderful. And now you have jobs that you can do that if you want to work. That's the one thing you said, is if you want to work. And some of that social skills and how do you get kids pointed. We call it, with Teens2Trades, we call it line of sight. How do you get line of sight from a kid to a job, and then what's that pathway, and get them passionate about it? Yeah.
And if you haven't heard Tommy's conversation with Gordon Jones, just stop this podcast. Go listen to that one, because I don't have a MBA from Stanford. So
when he was done, I was so fired up. I'm like, man, I was tired. After that thing.
Oh, he's
incredible.
And honestly, the opportunity we have in this little frame we have right now with Gordon here, and hopefully he's here a long time, but that is a unique asset for this valley, and what CWI has developed and what they are going to develop is transformative. And it's not just the trades, which is really exciting for us and at McAlvain, but it's the healthcare is in really, really tough spot too. And those opportunities, and my wife works at St. Luke's, and she's incredible, and they need help. They need to hire at almost every single level. And so, I think Gordon...
What does she do there?
She, MFM is the clinic that she runs. She's the manager for the maternal fetal medicine. So high risk OB, so very, very...
Which they're really struggling.
Yeah, we can do a whole different podcast on that if we need to, but
let's just stop there. I mean, I mean, an election's coming up here really soon, right? The primary's coming up, but I went and gave a talk to a group of OB/GYN doctors probably a month and a half ago. And when they called me, they said, hey, can you come talk to us about what you think's going on in Idaho? And I'm like, hey, listen, I don't want to, I don't know that I'm qualified. And it was a really good conversation. So I went and spoke to them. They wanted to know, hey, the amount of people leaving the state because of where the abortion law went. Just with zero exceptions. And, they'll talk about EMTALA. They'll talk about, we're pro-life, but we're pro-life for the fetus, and we're pro-life for the mother, kind of a thing, and just the balance that's been lost. It's a big problem.
It's tough, and there's nuance for it. For me, it's a matter of empathy and storytelling. I mean, it's there are people, and I understand it. If you have political or religious connections to a thought or an idea, but to step back and look at reality and what's happening, and put yourself in that shoes. These are people who want nothing more in the world than to start a family, but we're talking about health of women. So, for me, it's really hard because I'm too close to it, right?
But in stuff like this, it's like get in a room and figure this out, because you got to marry, again, ideology. I am pro-life, as I've delivered 18-week-old babies in an ER. I've delivered 20-week-olds. I've delivered 20-week-olds on the ER ramp, on the floor mat, right? I mean, I understand all this stuff, but I also understand when someone's got an ectopic pregnancy or a non-viable pregnancy, and the mother's dying in the ER.
Yeah.
That we got to treat both. We got to figure this out, and it's common sense has got to play a part in all this.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of phases of the world we're living in, right? You know, I talk a lot about storytelling, and there's not a worse story right now that's being written than our political culture in America. I mean, it's just tough. Both sides, you're just sitting here going, what are we doing? But, you know, I see opportunity, and it starts locally, and it starts with, you know, connecting and understanding other people's perspectives. And I just, you know, I can't help but be optimistic. I think that's probably a superpower of mine
Can we go from abortion to like Boise State sports?
Yeah.
Everyone over there's nodding. Like,
they're going, Tommy,
get off this.
Where's your PR person right now? Don't get you in trouble. And, you know,
well, I do think before we move on, I think you got, you know, in Idaho, it is primary elections.
Yeah.
Like that's where the legislature gets selected. And I hope everyone listens. I mean, it's coming up soon. Do your homework.
Yeah.
I mean, just last week, we often have multiple candidates come in and do breakfast here, and we do little fundraisers and ask where their position are on lots of things. You know, there is good information out there if you look for it, and then make those good choices, because it is the primary. That is that's where it all happens.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to speak to me and my vote, I'm ready to hear some positivity. I'm ready to hear people willing to work together. That's what I think we're trying to figure out here in this community, because it's so good, and there's so much change, right? Growing up here in 1995 is a lot different than what it is now, and there's a lot of impact, and some good and some very, very difficult for a lot. But you know, I just can't help but look, just because I can go through my head and think of all the hundreds and the thousands of people I know here that really want the best for this community. So let's work together and figure it out, right? So,
amen.
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving on.
Yeah.
Let's talk Boise State.
Okay.
Portal closes.
Yeah, apparently today. I don't know. I don't know. And that's basketball.
You always have inside scoop.
Oh, well.
You don't know who they're getting?
No. I've got the Twitter going, and yeah, you'd have to have BJ Rains on to get that scoop.
Yeah, those guys. But they're going to get, it sounds like they've got a couple big announcements today for the basketball team.
And basketball has been my one love, and that, you know, you think about the Fiesta Bowl and what that brought, and the two after that. I'm telling you, I went to University of Nevada in Reno, and they made a Sweet 16, and there's nothing like it. The winning a tournament game.
Who was on their team?
Oh gosh, it was Kirk Snyder, and so the years I was there was pretty unique at Nevada. I had Colin Kaepernick on football, and my two roommates, Kyle and Ryan, both studs. They played football, and Colin was there.
They were good, though.
Oh, yeah, they were good. And then the basketball team had the guy named Nick Fazekas was a stud, and Ramon Sessions. Ramon Sessions played about 10 years in the league. And so they had a good program. And basketball, nothing gets me. The connection, the energy, I've seen you at games.
The only thing I remember most about Nevada is those Martin brothers never graduated.
Yeah, they just stuck around.
What I mean? It's like, you're a senior again?
Yeah.
And they'd always hit those game-winning shots.
They were tough.
They were tough. Well, and the one is in Miami now.
Oh, yeah. They had good careers, and I think we're right there. I mean, Leon's incredible, and you know, part of me, you know,
doesn't it bug you? Like, it's just like, I do follow a lot of fan stuff on Twitter because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's also really frustrating.
Sure.
Right? I mean, here, you look at what the guy's done with the program amongst a lot of changing times, you know, NIL, portal, and we are so lucky to have that coaching staff, and yet the crap they take. Oh, it's tough. Come on, Bryan.
Yeah, I mean, we when I was there fundraising, you know, we have to self-raise 80% of our budget every year. That's going back and asking every single year for, you know, these budgets to just even compete. And so, you know, Boise State, we are spoiled, and you know, I love Bronco Nation, but you know, I don't think people understand, you know, some of the factors pushing against it. But to have Leon here, and you know, he's just such a good guy. I saw him on the street the other day, and he gave me, you know, dapped me up and said, you know, what's up, Bryan? And it was great because, he's a good, easy guy to sell. But if you look at like Colorado State, right?
Yeah.
Same conference, they've got double the money, and the state funds them like crazy.
So
and
I got in a lot of trouble because I went on with BJ one time and I said some stuff, but it's facts. Like, like you can't dispute it.
No.
We are the lowest funded from the state. I mean, every year it's hat in hand, right? It's from a financial standpoint, from an endowment standpoint, and from just a donor-based standpoint, you can't argue it.
No, it's tough. But we've got a great brand.
We've got a great brand.
And a great
my only point is like, okay, then just be a little bit like don't
realistic.
Don't want to go like after the guy when you just went to the NCAA tournament. You got all this good stuff going on. It would drive me crazy.
Oh,
I would hate to be, if I was his family members, I wouldn't be on Twitter.
Oh
I'd be
gosh,
all the time.
Those are, I think we're just right there, and it is, and it sometimes it takes losing a couple of those, even for the coaching staff, to go, okay, we learned, we picked up some
so much
nuggets.
of it is the draw too, right?
Oh yeah,
this year
I don't think we've gotten any favors,
no favors,
but yeah, I'm excited, and the guys that are coming back, and it's cool too, thinking about it through the lens of student athletes. A guy like Tyson Dagenhart hosting his own show.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You talk about podcasts
cool.
and how neat that is.
I love listening
I want more of that. And Omar came on and talked about him staying on. And we've got some studs, and I know Leon's working hard and his staff's great. And his staff stuck around. I mean, we've got a guy like Roberto Bergeson and Mike Burns and those guys, Tim Duria, those guys have been here through it for a long time. And I just
stability.
And we take it for granted. I'm like, think about an 8-20 year or whatever. We don't get those. No. It's every year we're competing. And
we're spoiled, and it's anyway.
We just need that win. We need a tournament win.
We do.
That'd be great.
And hopefully today it sounds like it's going to be really good news.
Yeah.
So be fun
Stay
again
tuned.
next year. What's next at McAlvain? Let's talk about your current role and what's going on there, and what your thoughts are.
Well, it was neat. It was fun listening to Corey talk because learning about his perspective and just learning the industry personally has just been really neat because you get to meet a lot of people that really, really work hard to do a lot. For me, I think in the construction industry, what we're seeing is an evolution like any industry, and this better than anybody with the way that you guys tackle. It's no longer and I don't want to give mechanics a bad name, but it's no longer the age where you just tell them you need me because I'm smarter than you, and I'm the only guy who can build this, and it is what it is. It costs what it costs. Now, people are smarter, and they need to see a plan, and they need to understand how you're gonna
how you're helping them get there, right?
Yeah.
Because because there's a lot of pressures.
Oh yeah.
Interest rates, supply chain.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of things. So if you have a partnership and you're looking at it more like that, like how do we help you win we both win?
Yeah.
That's what I've always loved about you.
Yeah.
Right? And that's Tori's mentality. Right?
Yeah. And we're investing in the right places. We've got an incredible team that hopefully they all listen to. I'm sure they're all going to give me shit for something I said, but they are really, really smart and thoughtful. Like, we've been really intentional. So it's cool for me to sit in and kind of represent. I think one thing they've asked me to do is be the voice of the client. Hey, I don't know if they're going to understand that approach, or hey, how are we going to answer this when they ask it, right? Yeah. And to your point too, understanding how deals get done. I spend a lot of my time trying to get to know some of the finance people and I'm like, hey, how
you've done some big jobs recently too. The brand new big building downtown.
Yeah.
Which is going up in record time, I swear.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. The Arthur and the Oppenheimers are an incredible group. That chance to work with them and that concrete job was one that I think a lot of our team's going to always look at and remember. Yeah. And they've got Power Construction doing the finishes on it, but our team just knocked that out. And it's, as a business development guy, best branding I've ever seen.
Sure.
In construction, I go look over there.
Listen, could the McAlvain sign have been a little bit bigger?
Yeah, we were working on it. Jeremy
you could see
Malone
it from outer space.
Yeah, they were like, but it's and everything we're doing, and every opportunity I have to learn more about, how this industry works and how we're helping our clients. And because for us, that's just, you're not going to make it in this industry, in this market, if you're not adapting, working as a team. I mean, you think about all the trade partners that we have, all the subcontractors. You have to understand their business, help them be successful, help the owner be successful. So that's our approach, and it's exciting, and we're just getting bigger, and it's big things to come.
I love it. I love what you're doing at McAlvain. Thanks for all you're doing for us. Let's end where we should have started.
Yeah.
your wife,
Yeah.
your partner in crime.
Yeah, Lauren.
You got lucky. I don't know how you got her, but
She always gives you a big hug.
Yeah.
She loves seeing you around. Yeah, Lauren and hopefully some of her St. Luke's folks will give this a listen because she's amazing. It really is. And I was late to the game. I met her through a friend actually when I started at Boise State, and it's one of those. I was getting pretty old. I was getting some grays, and I was like, uh-oh. I'd never settled down. I was moving 5 states in 7 years, and then, I meet this girl, and I chased her for a while, and finally she gave in, and she's just the best thing. And, she's just a partner to go through things. So we've been really happy. We got a little dog, and, we're just so pleased to build this life in Boise, full circle, to think about how lucky we are, and we want to be part of making it stay great. Right? So we like it. We're excited.
Listen, you're a great example and a great friend. We love you and appreciate you. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, this is check this off the bucket list. Yeah, I love it. Thanks,
man.